in the interview, with the Rock Bottom YouTube channel and the Rock Bottom radio show, the guitar player, singer, main songwriter, founding member, mastermind of the Flower Kings, Roine Stolt. Hi, Roine, nice to have you in this interview.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, so you will release a new album tomorrow on the 2nd of May 2025. It's
Mm.
called Love. I guess it's the shortest album title you have ever released in your career. So what was the idea to, call this album Love?
Um, Probably we were thinking about very smart album titles, and sometimes the smart album titles tend to be long also. We had a few, I think, in back in the beginning. I can't even remember, but I think one album we had even two titles, Flower Power, and it was also called A Journey into the Hidden Corners of Your Mind or something like that. So most of the album cover by then, and this was a time when the vinyl wasn't really much around, so it was just CDs, down to CDs, and you have to put the Flower Kings in and the whatever, the hidden corners of your mind, etc. But anyway, I mean, thinking of it, um, probably trying to find a clever title, but everything was sort of boiling down to love
Mhm.
as the possibility to make the world a better place. And this sounds in a way like old news, but very valid, I think, today. Just looking around, and that's probably what sort of enter our minds that the world is seems like a very scary place right now, with conflicts and wars all around, and without going further into any specific territory, I mean, it's like it's boiling everywhere.
Okay.
So it's a scary place to be. And I mean, we're grown up now in old people, but I mean, I'm thinking about young people and children and teenagers, thinking, what kind of world are we growing up into, and this, when we take over, what do we have? So it just seemed like love was a very simple. Sometimes it's important to just get to the core. And it just seemed like love was something, the simplest thing you could say, to sort of cover
Yeah.
everything.
Yes, I remember you had an album, it was called The Sum of No Evil, and at that time you have stated the sum of no evil is love.
Yeah.
So is it
Yeah.
some kind of sequel to this sum?
No, 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 not musically speaking, it's not. But I mean, in the big concept of what the Flower Kings as
Mhm,
a band is, and as much of the music comes from my head, my mind.
mhm.
That's the place I've chosen to be. I can't, if I think of myself as a teenager or a young person, I can't really think of myself being there because my mind was occupied with other stuff, to get the cool guitar or get the good looking girl or whatever. That was, in a teenager's mind is like, oh, can make some money. And I didn't care much about politics. I didn't care much about the world around me, to be very honest. So, but I mean, as a grown-up person now, with my even my kids are grown up. It's I gradually, I mean, since I started the Flower Kings, I've gradually I sort of gravitated towards thinking about the world and how we treat each other, and down to the very small basic things. You just go downtown, you get on a bus, you let the elder people, you help them. Anyone that needs help on the bus, you help them. You leave your seat for them, or someone looking for the way, you try to help them, in a friendly way. And even people sometimes need money. Okay, I give them money. There's many, many small things you can do to help other people, to listen to other people and see their needs.
Mhm.
So it's just like it's not something you do because of belief that you will be punished in hell if you don't. That's not the case for me. It's like I do it because I can imagine what it's like being them, you know.
Hmm.
I'm
I
here. I'm
understand.
fine. Doing fine with music and with money and everything. But if you can see the other person, see what they're going through, you know, it's easier to try to be kind or try to be helpful or whatever, give them money, you know, that kind
Hmm.
of thing.
It's a
So
good.
so yeah, I mean, gradually gravitating towards the idea of love. And I mean, again, like in the
Mm.
60s, you had, when I was growing up, you know, you had
Yeah.
the peace movement, but that was lots of smoking dope and stuff like that. We never did that, you know. But I mean, the idea of peace and love is, as Ringo says, you know, peace and love, peace and love. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much where it ended up, you know, and a lot of the lyrics are sort of falling into that, you know, concept, I would say.
Mhm. Because the first track, Considerations, has got all the Flower Kings trademarks that I love. It is floating, it's got a very vivid atmosphere. So, what kinds of considerations are meant in the song? Are these the considerations that you have described now?
You're talking about the song Considerations. That's the
Yeah,
last song. The last song.
the
That's
last
actually,
song. Oh,
yeah, yeah, it's the song number 12 on this.
I've got, yeah, I've got the how should I say? I've got the MP3s, and maybe they've got a different
Oh,
row,
yeah.
or it's a
Yeah.
different row, or maybe I'm not quite sure, or maybe I did
Oh, right,
something
right, right.
wrong.
I mean, because the opening track is called We Claim the Moon.
Ah,
So that's another, yeah.
it was my then my MP3 player. I've got an MP3 player. Then it's a different. I listened to the album in the different
Oh,
row several times, so now I know.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. But
You're,
anyway, it's a great song. So considerations are these the considerations that you have described?
yeah, but I mean, it's as said, I couldn't tell 100% because it's my brother, Michael, who plays the bass guitar. He wrote the song.
Oh yeah.
And but the considerations is probably, I would guess, about basically the same thing, viewing the world as it is now with all the strangeness that's happening already when Donald Trump took over America, you know, and a new order, not only in America but in the world, you know, claiming Greenland and thinking
Mhm.
about taking over different places, you know, living in his own little universe. So I would guess the song is about that, you know,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
yeah.
mhm. There's for example, a compact song, The Rubble, for example, it transports joy and it's got a relaxed groove. So what gives
Mhm.
you more artistic freedom, writing compact or more long songs?
Uh, I wouldn't say that it makes much of a difference, really. I mean, writing a short song or a longer song, it's more like that's more like a technical thing, you know, because if you look at this, you have 12
Yeah.
songs. In the past, I would say we would have probably taken 3 or 4 song ideas and sort of glue them together to make a whatever 25-minute song, you know.
Yeah.
But now we separated them. I don't know. We just felt like, okay, we don't need to make these long songs because we've been making them for a very long time. And there used to
Mhm.
always be like a 30-minute song or two 30-minute songs and one 12-minute song, etc. Or even on the album I mentioned, Flower Power, that one has a 60-minute song.
Yeah, that's
One of the longest song in progressive rock history, actually. So we've done that, and we don't need necessarily feel we have the need to do long songs just for the sake of doing long songs, you know. And I'm guessing now because I'm rehearsing for a tour. So I think what we will do when we play it live is sometimes to just bridge the songs together when we play it live.
yeah.
But on the record, it's just like you can choose if you whatever have a radio show or something. You can choose to play a section. I don't think it should be like a limitation for us to have doing an album and then you can never get it played on a radio show because our songs are whatever 40 minutes long, you know. That would be sad, I think. It's all about the music, but I think the the fundamentals of the music is actually pretty much the same, you know.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it,
Okay.
it's like it's almost like Lego. You're familiar with Lego?
Yeah,
The
yeah. I was a
you
child many
play with-
years ago.
yeah, yeah, I know. But so that's something that you can take bits and pieces and you piece them together, you know. You build something that is more like a full scale, you know, concept as this
Mhm.
one.
Yes, it was my idea because albums like yeah, Flower Power, Unfold the Future, or Paradox Hotel, they had very long songs, and now they are a little bit more accessible and yeah, maybe more compact. And on your previous albums as well, so it's a little bit more accessible, but I like both approaches.
Yeah.
And yeah, the album has got a very warm and very versatile keyboard sound. It fits very well to your guitar playing. Guitar and keyboards, it's a very good,
Oh.
yeah, blend. So has Lalle Larsen a different musical approach than previous keyboardists of yours?
I would say a little bit. I mean, Lalle is classically trained piano player,
Mm,
and but he's also a man with lots of, you know, surprising talents
mhm,
or
mhm,
vices or whatever, you know, because when I first got to know Lalle maybe 15 years ago, something like that, and we played actually together in Agents of Mercy, another band I had for whatever 5 years. That
mhm,
also had Nat Sylvan that's now playing with Steve Hackett. Uh, but we got together and speaking about music, he told me that he was really fond of lots of metal bands, you know. And I used to like Deep Purple. I liked them and I liked Led Zeppelin, but I wasn't
okay.
super. I mean, yeah, I mean, I like the swing of Deep Purple, and they were really good players, and you know, with the keyboards and guitar and fantastic singer, I think. Same thing with Led Zeppelin, you know. It was a great band, you know, in the whatever metal scene. But I didn't care much for the Judas Priest and Def Leppards and whatever those kind of
Okay,
bands, you know.
okay.
But Lalle really loved some of the metal bands, you know. So that was interesting. But on the other hand, he's also very much into the jazz scene or the improvised and the
Mm,
jazz, more almost towards avant-garde, you know. Very
really?
complicated stuff, you know. And then you know, he can take in a nice pop song or you know, um, just about any style of music, you know. So he has a very open mind, you know. And that's something I value.
Oh,
Someone has an open mind and not set on one specific style of music or a specific style of playing, you know.
mhm.
So
This is
it's
my
always a joy to work with, you know, and as far as, you know, finding sounds and finding ways to play and to listen, you know, because
mm,
improvising
mm,
has I, I would say on and off, it's been very important part of Flower Kings. And for me personally, it's been an important part because I grew up listening to bands or musicians that improvised a lot, like Jimi Hendrix, for instance, and lots of the blues bands back in the day, you know, like the Allman Brothers. They could
mhm.
have long jams for whatever 15-minute songs, you know, just jamming. And I enjoyed doing that and also playing with my friends, jamming for hours and
Yeah.
hours. And Lale has a mind that, you know, is very open to that. He has a very good ear. So that's, I think, something we have in common. While he is classically trained, I am not. So I have no idea. I don't even know
Mhm.
what chords I'm playing, you know.
Oh yeah.
It's just by ear, you know. But
You
so we
play the yeah, you play the chords, you play the guitar, but you can't play after written notes or some kind like that.
no,
Or
no, correct. On the other hand, my ear is extremely trained, so I can say whatever someone is playing, uh, uh, D minor 13, I can tell if one note is wrong. I can stop stop. There's one note wrong.
Yeah.
So it's kind of scary in that way because my hearing and my sense of pitch. If someone is
Mm,
singing out of tune or someone is like a guitar or bass is out of tune, I can tell instantly.
mhm,
And
mhm,
it can be painful because if you're in an environment where someone is singing out of tune or someone is playing his guitar out of tune, it's kind of painful for me.
okay.
Yeah.
Mm. Really, your style has got a very individual approach because, like you mentioned before, it's got elements of rock, folk, jazz, singer-songwriter influences can be heard. So,
Mhm.
so was it intended, or does it come naturally because
Uh,
of your musical influences?
yeah, I would say it comes natural. It's not like well, it was forced or it was intended to be that because we wanted it to be like that.
Mm,
It's more like you have to ask yourself if ideas come up, if I hear a
mm,
melody and I can sense that the melody has a touch of Swedish folk music or Hungarian folk music or Japanese folk music,
mm,
and I like it, then I shouldn't say, this is not rock music. I can't play that. I should embrace it and say, oh, that other bands don't do that. So let's do it because then we do it and they don't. And
mm,
they makes the Flower Kings a little bit unique. We can take all these bits and pieces and I'm not a snob. It's not like I think, oh, it's got to be very complicated or are we too good for playing pop songs? Because I love pop songs. I love lots of, I would say commercially, like whatever, Coldplay.
mm,
I love Coldplay. They're a great band.
no.
I loved lots of David Bowie songs, and some, you know, uh, commercially successful and artists that end up in the charts doing
Mm,
hit songs. If I like the song, I like the song. And I can see the Flower Kings playing a simple song uh, once it's set in the context of everything. I mean, in the full scope of like an album or a concert.
mhm.
I enjoy that very much.
Of
So
course,
it doesn't have to be progressive just to be progressive, you know what I mean? It's
because
it's
it,
yeah. The music
it's
comes first and
it's
don't ask other people what you shall do or what they think if you're cool or not cool doing it. Because I think that's the freedom of being a progressive artist is that you do what you do. I think the Beatles never asked anyone if they thought.
yeah.
And Frank Zappa never asked anyone, "Can I do this?" He just put in everything he wanted. Or Yes or John Anderson, they didn't ask their friends, "What can we do with the music?" They were just there, and whatever they liked, they played it, and let the audience come to us. So
Because
so I think the way to go.
your label Inside Out is yeah very open-minded for progressive rock and progressive metal. It's their genre, so it's a perfect label for your musical approach, I guess.
Oh, oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been with them now for 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, itself, I wouldn't imagine, when I think even they approached me back in 98 maybe or 99, 98 maybe, and tried to sign us. And then I said no at the time because we were doing well. But then it just went on. We were just distributing the albums from here, from my office.
Mhm.
And then it just went skyrocket and selling more. I found myself just doing office work and writing invoices and stuff like that instead of
Oh
playing
yeah,
guitar.
okay.
So I said, no, okay. So next time they approached us, I said, okay,
Yeah,
let's try a
that's good.
couple of years, and here we are, like whatever, 25 years later.
Mhm. And the first song we claim the moon, it's your hard rocking song. It's the heaviest song on the album. How would you see it? You mentioned it before.
I wouldn't say rocking because yeah, it has a bit of a guitar riff, but it's I wouldn't let me see it has like a more like a rhythm drive of a, as I see it, like a Motown song, like the old Motown songs, with the
Hmm.
tambourine, and
Yeah.
the drums driving it, and ba 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 ba, the bass. So that I could see almost like a tree of black chicks singing, and like whoever, like a soul singer doing the song. But yeah, I mean, it just felt like starting the album with a song like that would be a bit of a surprise or a little bit of a different approach than starting with a grand symphonic
Yeah,
rock
I can
piece.
understand more. Yeah, okay. I understand very well. And you have had some changes in the lineup since 2018. So did these
Mhm.
changes in the lineup have an impact on your musical direction?
I mean, yes, it always does, It always does. I mean, regardless if people write songs, but in this case, I mean, Michael wrote one song and Lalle wrote one song. But even if they didn't, I think the only the fact that they're there, and we're recording and they add their style of playing, I think
Hmm.
changed the direction of the band, and we change, and even me as a writer, like a main writer, I change my mind. I change because I want to make different albums, not too different, but I want to make them a little bit different, and I want to try different things. And in this case, we just try to scale down a little bit the big bombastic symphonic things. They're
Hmm.
still there, you know, and the tricky stuff and the odd time signature and all that, that you find in progressive rock and whatever, anything from Frank Zappa to Yes or Gentle Giant, that kind of stuff. But uh, it was kind of open and sometimes rather than putting just stacking keyboards on top like big chords and big orchestral things or Hammonds or Mellotrons and stuff like that, we try to leave a little bit of room for the bass and drums, to give a little bit
Hmm.
more punch
Hmm.
in the recording.
Hmm. Hmm. So yeah, and yeah, you are releasing frequently new albums. All have got a long running time and are on a very, yeah, high artistic level. So where's the origin of this surge of creativity? And could you, yeah, describe your composing process?
The composing process is very spontaneous. As I mentioned, I have no formal musical training. Well, I did about a year and a half with a guitar teacher and reading music and stuff like that. But my ears were too good maybe because I knew that she played the music for me and I could just mimic, and whatever she played I could play without looking at the music score. And then I found out that okay, that's maybe not for me. And then I went on to another music school for about 6 months or something like that. That was more oriented towards jazz
Hmm.
and improvising and stuff like that. So we played songs by whatever Gary Burton, Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock, that kind of thing, but at that point, I already got an offer from a local band, that were professionals.
Hmm.
Kaipa, that was my first professional band, and then it just went on from there. So well, you don't think much about it. It's like writing music, composing becomes like almost like a daily habit, something you do. You get up, you have your breakfast, and then I go into the studio, turn on the keyboards or the guitar, and I just start fiddling around and come up with song ideas.
Hmm.
But I mean, I don't follow up everything. I review it and I listen and I see what I like and what I think could make a good song or something that could fit in on an album or whatever we are working with at the time. So it's it's good to have. I mean, I would say I rarely have the feeling that I'm sitting here and nothing comes up
Oh,
because something will come up. I'm not saying it's going to be super good or interesting, but sometimes something comes up and I mean even other times like there's one song on the album that's called How Can You Leave Us Now?
hmm.
One of the singles.
Single,
And
yeah.
yeah, that song came up when I was last summer. I was in the studio, but I had to go out because the sun was shining. I get some fresh air. I just went on my bike for a long bike ride, and in the bike ride, I this melody and some of the
Cool.
lyrical stuff. And I was lucky because I had my iPhone,
Hmm.
and in the you can sing in, as you know, little memo. So I did that, you know. So that was an interesting way of writing
And
songs also.
are you recording the albums in your own studio, or are you going to an external studio?
We went to record some basic tracks in a very nice studio here in Sweden that we've been using with the Flower Kings, and we even used it for the last Transatlantic album, but also with Agents of Mercy, I think.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I've been there many times, like 5 or 6 times, I think. But it's
Hmm.
it's a very very high class studio with more like old school analog Neve.
Yeah.
So it's like yeah, it's technically speaking, it's like top notch, and the owner is a super nice guy. He used to be a musician himself, you know, but now he's focused on this, and so all the greatest microphones, all the greatest rooms and acoustics,
Old
and the,
school.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Good,
that's
yeah.
uh, that's
Mhm.
how we do it these days.
And the Flower Kings album, Back in the World of Adventures, was released in 1995. So will be there a 30 years anniversary celebration or tour this year?
Yeah, I haven't even thought about it, but you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really. It's maybe,
Yeah, there will be a tour, but I
it,
think I wouldn't call it really a celebration for the album,
of
but
course,
we
yeah.
actually we play one of the longer songs called Big Puzzle on that album. We're gonna play that live,
Hmm.
which is a really nice song to play actually, and we can stretch out and improvise a little bit for a few sections, but I think that's about it from. And then we're gonna play, of course, from the new album. We got to do
Yeah, of
that, you know.
course, yeah.
Yeah, and some other songs from I can't remember now. From Look at You Now, I think. So there's a couple of other songs, and of course we have the tour together with Neil Morse and the Resonance. So it's like a double bill, you know, and so they're gonna play their show. We're gonna play our show, and there's most
Yeah,
likely gonna
yeah,
be.
yeah, Neil Morse, yeah.
Yeah, 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 I see that. Yeah,
Yeah, is Neil Morse
yeah,
some kind of, yeah, brother for you because you worked with him in Transatlantic, you toured many times with him, so some
yeah.
kind
I
of
mean, I
musical
mean,
brother?
yeah, I would say so because I think we're very much alike. I mean, Neil and myself. I mean, back in the day, it used to be like James Brown was the hardest working guy. James Brown was the hardest working guy in music, but then was soul music. But in prog music, I would say, jokingly, I would say that the hardest working guys are Roine Stolt and Neil Morse, and possibly Mike Portner, of course. But he's cut down to only to Dream Theater now. But I think that Neil and I were always doing projects and working, you know, every year, every day, lots of albums and
Yeah.
working hard with music any possible way, you know. So yeah, it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice, and most likely gonna play some transatlantic tune as the encore also because
Mm,
people want to hear it. It's
of
because we're
course,
on stage.
yeah.
Yeah.
You've mentioned before, you were involved in many projects and bands in the
Mhm.
recent 10 years, for example, Transatlantic, The Sea Within, and Anderson Stolt. So,
Mhm.
will there be a follow-up to these projects in the future?
Um, I'm not sure about the Sea Within. I think it was just one album, but everyone, I mean, now Tom Brislin is with Kansas and they're working full time. So I
Hmm.
would, it would be difficult, and there used to be Daniel Gildenlöv who sang half the album, and then Casey McPherson sang half the album. So I'm not sure about the Sea Within. I think it's probably went to be just a one-off. But I mean, at the Anderson Stolt, the music I've been doing with John Anderson has been ongoing, even if not official. We're working all the time, but then it goes like a couple of months, and there's a couple of other songs we work on, and it's just expanding. So we had lots of music that we work on uh, all the time, so to speak. And I mean, just recently, I got a few songs, drums tracked by Don Perry, who used to be the drummer for Jethro Tull for whatever, 15,
Hmm.
20 years. He lives in California, so he's been tracking drums for a few of the songs, and I think it's likely that we can actually finish because there's songs lying around, and every now and then I pick them up and listen to it. Oh, it's great, and I send it to John. Says, "Oh, that sounds great. We
This is
probably
good.
should.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's do it now. Let's not wait. Let's do it while we're alive, still and here. And
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he
yeah,
released a solo album, yeah, last year and was on tour, I guess. Maybe
I
now
know.
he's got the time to work with you now, and
Yeah, but he works all the time. He's like me. He works all
yeah.
the time. So he's out with the band geeks now, I think, doing playing Yes songs, and I think it's this summer. So I would imagine towards end of the summer we will have some time again, and that's my plan.
Hmm.
As I can see, I really have any touring, let's say in September, October, then would probably be a good time to just nail it down and make it happen, so to speak.
Okay. I've seen the Jonas Reingold, your former bass player, and Ned Sylvan. They are also related to you. You worked with Ned as
Mhm.
well, and they are now part of Steve Hackett's band for many years. So how
Cool.
did it come? Did you introduce them to Steve, or how does it happen that two guys of your musical
Um,
colleagues are now in Steve Hackett's band?
I mean, Steve, we met Steve when we were touring. I think in the beginning we were touring with Agents of Mercy back in. Oh my goodness, that must have been could have been in 2009, 2010 maybe. We bumped into Steve lots of different festivals.
Hmm.
So and then I think actually Nad was the singer who got the gig with Steve first. And then I was offered to join playing with Steve for a year.
Hmm.
I didn't know at the time it was going to be a year. I thought it was just like a couple of gigs, because Nick Beggs couldn't do it. But
Ah,
I ended up playing with Steve for a year, and then I said, well, I have my own bands. I hope you you know,
yeah,
don't be
okay,
angry, but
okay,
I need
yeah.
to I need to step down and leave it to someone else. And then I can't remember. I think Nick Beggs was back, and so I mean that probably I mean came from that point. I mean Steve is aware of the Flower Kings for a very long
Hmm.
thing. So
Okay.
so yeah. But I mean, it was lots of fun, and I mean, I grew up listening to Genesis as a teenager, so for me it was great to be there on stage and play whatever cinema show or Firth of Fifth or The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. You know,
Hmm.
it's a bit surreal, but and I really enjoyed it. A really nice concert hall and everything. But I mean, like everything is got. Sometimes it's you need to focus and cut down because I'm also a family man, so I can't be away. I
Okay.
remember I was out with Steve. I was out from, I think, from one year. I was out from middle of August until middle of December, and I was only home for maybe 4 or 5 days.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, you can
Maybe
imagine.
because, So because you're your own man, the Flower Kings, I can't imagine that you could work for a very long time under a boss. It's hard to believe.
No, no, not really. Not really. No, and that, I think that was my intention, and then it just went on, and then you get to the point where you need to sort of uh, go to the guy and say, "So how is it going? You know, how long I'm going to be here?" And I'm not sure I can do this, you know. And I love the music and I love you guys, but I can't spend my rest of my music life being like your bass player, you know. That's
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
understand. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, these were my questions. Do you have got further information for your fans?
Not really. I think we covered most. We covered the album. We covered the fact that we're touring in June in Europe and with the Flower Kings and Neil Morse and the Resonance. And we covered a bit of the other history, you know, way back, you know, from the early years and the Kaipas and the whatever, the Steve Hackett's and the John Andersons and all that. So
Okay,
I think we should be fine.
yeah. Okay, Roine, thank you very much for this nice interview. I am frequently playing the Flower Kings, and it's great. It will be presented soon and will be brought to YouTube as well. So have much success, great success with the new album, the forthcoming tour. Good health, good luck. All the
Thank
best to Sweden.
all. To you also.